am free. Now, I can get back to work.
Welcome back everyone, and hello to all my subscribers. I'd go and name you all, but I'd be here all day if I did that. That said, big thanks to everyone who subscribed to me. I am Silvermont, or Alex, and today we're going to wrap up the topic of discussion we've been on for the last few weeks, Carim. We talked about Chester, I worried over the pronunciation of some words, and we talked a little about Oswald. So what is there left to discuss concerning Carim? Surely you haven't forgotten the most famous character from Carim now. That's right, Golden Yurt 2.0, Lautrec of Carim. Knight Lautrec the Embraced, a most interesting character, and likely the first of Carim we'll meet in the game. And for the poor player who knew not of Yurt, or was simply too trusting, Lautrec can cost you dearly, and one of the most basic rules of war, know your enemy. So, what do we know of Lautrec? Well, we can start with his name, Knight Lautrec of Carim. It tells us obviously that he's from Carim, but his accent is rather different to Oswald and Chester, and if you have a look at his face under his helmet, well, he doesn't look quite as sophisticated as does Oswald. Chester and Oswald both have similar voices, slick and dripping with fake courtesy, very ignoble. Although we don't see Chester's face in game, it's likely he has the same sallow skin as Oswald and Lautrec. The differences being then in their voices and even their hairstyles. The point I'm trying to make is that I believe Lautrec was born a peasant or a commoner. He just gives me that impression. His voice is harsh and his manner of speaking can be quite crude. And he has the sort of face you'd expect to see on like a brute. The sort of face you would expect to see on a man guarding a door in a dark alley that you really don't want to go through. But it could be that he's compensating for his low birth with his armour. After all, is there anyone with armour quite as ornate and flashy as Lautrec? There is the Dark Moon Knight, or the Darkling Lady, or whatever you want to call her. She has an intricate and very pretty set, but that is likely because she has a close relationship with a god, and gods are known to bestow such gifts. But wait, Lautrec too has a supposed relationship with a god. Supposedly. As for whether his armour is really made of gold, we don't know. We do know that the Dark Moon Lady is supposedly very deformed and disfigured under her armour. The key difference between Lautrec and the Dark Moon Knight, or Knightess, or whatever you want to call her, is that we can confirm her relationship with Gwynevere. Lautrec, on the other hand, he has a strong love of Fina, a god known to possess fateful beauty. But we don't know if she exists or loves him in return. There are no miracles associated with her, and the only real evidence would be her ring, used by so many players, that is quite possibly magical. So, starting out, that is my belief, that Lautrec was born a peasant and became a knight. Now, we know where he's from. The next question is, why is he here in Lordran? What is his goal? Well, one interesting thing we can note is that I feel Lautrec represents the player in some capacity. We have Solaire, who I feel represents the helpful player, the Sunbro, the white or gold phantom, who wants to help you defeat bosses and progress through the game. Lautrec, on the other hand, represents the player who is only interested in their own satisfaction. They might help you, only because it proves beneficial to them. Because Lautrec does help us a little, and he seems to have no ill will against us, even if he will fight us to the death. It is important to know that he never attacks us. We are always the aggressor. He will use us to further his goal, and we know that he has a mission. We just don't know what it entails. Although we know that Anor Londo is probably part of it, as he states that he has business up above. Maybe we can work out his goal if we look at where we find him. The first place we ever find Lautrec is, for most players, in the Undead Parish, where he's locked up in a cell and pleads with us to release him. Who put him there? I think it's safe to say that the Channelers locked him up, and plan to move him at a later date to the Duke's archives. That said, was Lautrec imprisoned by a Channeler? I mean, I believe he could defeat one of those, but who knows? Maybe he was caught while sleeping, or maybe he was ambushed by a number of enemies and defeated some before he was overwhelmed. At any rate, whether or not you do free him, he manages to escape. How though? Did the Channeler prepare to move him from his cell when he slew it? And it's important to note that Lautrec has his weapons on him in the cell, but remarks that he will reward us later. And when he does reward us, we get Medallions of the Sun, despite Lautrec not being in that covenant. So what did he do upon being freed? Did he fight alongside a Warrior of Sunlight and earn a medallion just so he could give us something? Or did he perhaps slay one and take the medallion for himself? What an odd reward to give. Once we free him, we can find him in Firelink Shrine, sitting dead across from the Firekeeper, where he will offer us tips and engage in some idle chit-chat with us. It is rather interesting at this point that Lautrec becomes gradually colder to us, almost as if he has a dream that we would cross him, and when he wakes up he's upset at us, despite it being just a dream. Or perhaps he merely remembers what his goal is, and that he shouldn't get too friendly with us. That said, we can summon him against the Gargoyles and the Gaping Dragon, both times alongside Solaire, if we summon Solaire as well. I feel that is intentional, from a game design standpoint, to make us look at the two characters side by side and draw up comparison, and how they relate to the player character. But short of killing Lautrec, there is no way to prevent what happens next. The demise of Anastasia of Astora. How he gets to her through the bars of her prison, we don't know. Why he kills her? Well, there are several options. First, he wanted her Firekeeper soul as a trophy, or planned to consume it at a later date for the humanity. Second, he wanted to impede our travels. Last of all, he simply didn't like her. Regarding her death, one of the last things he will say to us at Firelink is,
"That keeper has served me well, but enough with her."
That makes it plain that once he left, he never planned on coming back. Why did he want to enter Anor Londo to such an extent? Was it related to Fina? And that last line probably means that he didn't kill Anastasia out of sympathy. So let's take a look at all the mentions of Fina we can find in game, starting with Lautrec's armour. Armour of Lautrec the Embraced, representing the goddess Fina's love. The goddess's arms wrap around it as if to embrace the wearer. During his solitude, he forsook everything, for he believed in the goddess's love for him. And then there's his ring, the famous Fap ring, a ring symbolizing the favor and protection of the goddess Fina, known in legend to possess fateful beauty. So, Lautrec forsook everything, believing in Fina's love for him, and he travelled all the way to Anor Londo. Maybe he was searching for her. We find his armour on a body outside of Gwynevere's chambers. Is it possible that Fina is Gwynevere? Fina likely comes from Josephina or Josephine, both of which obviously have their connections with Joseph. Now, we know that Chester refers to Juniper, who could well be Gwynevere, and seeing as Chester and Lautrec are likely both from Carim, isn't it rather doubtful that one god would have up to 3 names in one region alone? All the same, maybe Lautrec assumed that he would find her in Anor Londo, seeing as that is the city of the gods. But is that really his goal, to find Fina and nothing else? I believe so, yet if that is the case, it is strange to note that he doesn't mention her once. In all of his dialogue, of which there is quite a lot, he never mentions her.
May the goddess have mercy upon you.
Could it be that our Knight of Carim is jealous and possessive of his god, who he believes loves him and perhaps him alone? Maybe he believes that other players would try to steal her away from him. All the same, when we find him in Anor Londo, we can invade his world and slay him, taking our Firekeeper's soul back and using it to return her to her duty. For Lautrec does not consume it or use it, despite the fact that it would grant him a boon of humanity, something he seems rather fond of. So let's take a quick rundown of things. Lautrec was knighted and likely born in Carim, as a low-born peasant, possibly. Nothing to back that up other than my speculation. At some point, he leaves on a journey by himself, or was exiled, with Anor Londo being at least part of his destination. Whether or not it was his final destination, we will never know. Upon being captured in the parish, he will then escape or be freed and proceed down to the depths before making his way up to Anor Londo, having slain Anastasia. There, he meets his end by our hands, and we find what is likely his body on the balcony outside of Gwynevere's chambers. It is also worth mentioning that when invaded, he has 2 allies with him, neither of which seem to be phantoms. So just where did he find them? His armour mentions his solitude, and if they had been with him earlier, why was he locked up? Perhaps they're supposed to be people he happened to summon. He doesn't mention them besides the one line of dialogue.
Well, look at you. I thought you were wiser. But I thought wrong. 'Tis a terrible pity. Like a moth flittering towards a flame. You fellows, no? Don't you agree?
Dialogue is one of the things we can go by when looking at characters' intentions, and one thing Lautrec mentions above all else seems to be humanity. His tip, if we pay him the souls to hear it, is that we might find Rhea down in the Tomb of the Giants, a nubile maiden, replete with humanity. He also remarks that
your humanity is really slipping, but there are methods. Most fools have more humanity than they know what to do with. Now, who do you imagine will make the best use of it?
Clearly he understands the importance of it, and to me it suggests that Lautrec is afraid of turning hollow, and that is part of his goal, to prevent it at all costs. If that is the case, why doesn't he attempt to steal our humanity? Well, look at who he targets, a helpless firekeeper. She can't fight back, and her soul would provide him at least 5 humanity, which is quite a lot. Maybe he doesn't much fancy his chances against us. After all, when we fight him for real, he has not 1, but 2 phantoms on his side. Well, not technically phantoms, but you know what I mean. Doesn't that remind you of the type of person who will sit there in the forest with 2 sunbros waiting for you to arrive so they can pummel you mercilessly for some easy souls, or just for the satisfaction of ganging up on you? Let's be fair, some people do not like to take chances in the world of Lordran, whether they're NPCs or real people, especially those who have come across trusty patches, and we know Lautrec has. All in all, Lautrec is yet another mysterious character. He follows a goal we do not know of. He serves a god whose existence we cannot be sure of. He comes from a land with a dark reputation, and he fights with an unusual but effective style, and he has no qualms in slaying what is but one important lifeline in our desperate journey. He summarizes well the dubious inhabitants of Carim.
I am Knight Lautrec of Carim.
I am Anastasia of Astora. Leave me be. I wish not to speak.
Oh, really? Well, suit yourself.